Hey, this is Lester Martin, your developer advocate here from Starburst, and I want to take a few minutes and make sure folks have a resource to look at when we start to do our workshop series. Now, the workshops are going to need a Trino environment. I'm going to use Starburst Galaxy, and I'm going to use the tutorials that are available to help make sure folks can go ahead and just step right into the activity. So this first workshop we're going to do this week, we'll do these steps live, but I want to record these for subsequent ones, and we'll reference them at a time. So there'll be two labs that are super important. One of them is called Starburst Galaxy Getting Started. And this is about just basically going to Starburst Galaxy and creating an account. So a lot of words here that say, that's neat, that's what we want to do. Put these links in the message below. And but step 2 is going to basically say, hey, go to the Starburst Galaxy homepage. And when you're there, let's go ahead and create a new account. Now, that's going to walk us through some pretty straightforward stuff. It's going to ask us for our name and a work email. It won't allow Gmail and Yahoo and that stuff. And you'll supply basically your name and your email address and maybe a company name and hit create account. And then rather quickly, you're going to get some kind of email that's going to ask you, just like you see here, with a 6-digit code. And then you're going to put that code right back in your browser. Pretty simple stuff. And then you're going to pick an account name and set a password. So really easy stuff. And once you do that, you're going to get logged in. Now, it may ask you some questions as you come. And let me show you what that login looks like. It's going to actually drop you in a query as well. So let's find that login screen right quick for ourselves here. Here it is. So here I am. I'm logged in. I went ahead and created this account. And it did a nice job of going ahead and setting up a cluster for us, and a little bit of data that we can query. It's not writable, but it's queryable as well here. And that's pretty cool. That's awesome. Now, I will say that this lab does have some other read-only setups. If you'd like to continue on, as you see on the left-hand side, it's going to say, hey, we can get set up to a Postgres system, to a data lake, and then ultimately run a federated query. That's cool. That's important. I challenge you and encourage you to do that. But for the workshops, what you really need to do is go ahead and follow through when it says create a new cluster. So this is step 7 down here. Well, basically, we need to create one in the US East. So I'm just going to do those steps right quick with you here. I'm going to say admin clusters, create a new cluster, and we're going to call it AWS US East 1 free. All right, so let's see if we can find all the admin clusters. We'll create a new cluster. I think we call it AWS US East 1 free. Now, if there's some catalogs that's already there, go for it. I'll just add a couple that are there. And we want to put that in East, US East, north of Virginia. There we go. Public access standard. Glance over here, see if we call out anything else. They say light up all the catalogs that we might have already created. I went and left those off there. And it says leave it as much time as it can light up. Pretty much we're just taking the standard options here. So the problem is going to auto suspend right here after about 5 minutes. So we have to kind of think about that. All right, so it all looks good. We'll create that cluster. And we have a new cluster sitting there and it's starting up. Now the good news is I'm pretty sure on this lab, that's about what we need to do. Again, there's some other connections you can do here, but we want to create the account. We want to create a US East 1 free cluster, and then ultimately we want to navigate over to an additional lab. And this tutorial is about giving you write access. So these are some short-lived Amazon credentials that I want you to use in the future. And you'll have to, as the tutorial says, you'll have to tear this down daily. We change these credentials a lot. We delete the data every day, and it will get confusing if you set it up, do some work, walk away, and come back tomorrow, and then things will seem confusing. So the best answer is delete that catalog and start afresh again. Or, read one of our tutorials about setting up your own bucket, which is also a better solution long term for you to do. All right, so in these steps, it's going to have you log back into your Starburst cluster you just did, and we're going to create a new catalog. So I'm going to go way over here, and under data catalogs, I'm going to say let's create a new catalog. It's going to tell you just to hit Amazon S3, right there, S3, and then he's calling it temp catalog, and I encourage you to use that name, TMP cat, and it talks a little bit about putting a description that says delete daily, and I encourage you to do that. And then it's going to use AWS credentials. Now these credentials in this video are going to probably likely change when you see this. Like I said, this is kind of the space that we can't just give this out for free forever. So copy and paste what's there and realize you're going to throw it away and rebuild it tomorrow, and these could be different tomorrow. Even if they're not, the data is going to be thrown away under the cover. So remember that, consider that. Now the rest of this is going to say, pretty much, well, I guess a couple important things. We need to pick the meta store. I think the UI's changed slightly. It's going to ask you about default table first. The tutorial mentions it. Let's just let it go to Iceberg. And then the tutorial says, hey, let's pick the Starburst Galaxy meta store. And then we'll need a bucket called Starburst Tutorials. We want a default project name called Projects. Yep. That sounds good. And then it's going to tell us toggle both of these allows on. And if it all goes well, you're going to hit a test connection. It's going to say it's all good. It's all green bar. Everything's working. And then ultimately, it's going to, that's what we already seen. We've already seen the test. And then it's going to say, go ahead and connect this catalog. So hit connect. And here's where we needed to do everything a few minutes ago. We're admins. We're going to leave it wide open. But we needed that US East 1 because in the free setup here, I cannot do a cross region. We're going to keep all the costs down. So we're putting the compute and the storage in the same zone, availability zone, all that good stuff. So if all goes well, I'll say, yep, does that work? And it's going to say, it sure does. And then the tutorial says, hey, let's do this. This is another exercise. We'll do it later if all goes well. I think at the end, this is going to say, to verify everything's happy, let's navigate to our query editor, and he'll have you do that. So navigate data, query editor. And we should be able to see our AWS free cluster that we just spun up right here. There's our temp catalog. And if you really, really want to make sure all goes well, you can do what it says here. We can copy this temp catalog, create a schema. Let's just do that real quick. I'm going to add a whole new window here, paste that. And they want us to put our first name, our last name, our postal code. First name is Dev, last name is Rel, and my postal code is 00000. And I'm going to do that. And if all goes well, I created a schema. And I think it's going to have us just create a quick table. Oh, it didn't even do that. It just left us inside of there. And then we'll verify that we have a schema. And that's, if doing that, we know we have a writable solution. So this is the backdrop for all the workshops. We need a US East 1 cluster. We need access to temp catalog. And a reminder is, if you're doing a second or third or fourth workshop with us and you have this set up, likely you need to go drop the temp catalog and rebuild it based on those instructions. All right, thanks for listening, and I can't wait to explore the whole workshop series with you. And it also said I couldn't do it below if you were looking really close because I had the wrong cluster. There it is. I'll run it again. I'm sure it's going to work just fine. All right, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the workshops.